Northern Greenland, Earth. Professor Ixxi paced among the students in his circular classroom, lecturing them on how to survive in one of the harshest climates across all known worlds. That's a place where not a single one of the known species of the Galactic Council can survive without heavy assistance from technology. His talons pressed against the clean white floor as he navigated between the tiered seats. The classroom's transparent dome revealed Core Station's purple atmosphere beyond, while climate controls maintained different environmental pockets for each species, a necessity for such diverse ambassador trainees. Professor Ixxi's sharp avian eyes swept across his students with the accuracy that made him legendary among the Academy's faculty. His gaze, capable of detecting movement from 3 kilometers away on his homeworld, settled on a glacier in the third row. His blue feathers, magnificent cobalt shifting to pink, shook with excitement at finding the perfect example for his lesson. Without breaking his stride, Ixxi moved silently toward the glacier student, only the whisper of wingtips against his sides marking his approach. The other students tracked him nervously. Being singled out in Professor Ixxi's class meant becoming a teaching example. He positioned himself beside the glacier's desk, shadow falling across her holographic notepad, and resumed speaking. "Consider student Ivari here," he said, gesturing with one wing. She was striking, skin like deep winter ice with an opalescent quality shifting between powder blue and frost white. Her eyes were remarkable, enlarged corneas adapted for eternal twilight, pupils that could capture every available photon. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders like snow. Each strand evolved to trap insulating air while providing natural camouflage against Glacier Prime's ice fields. In her environmental bubble, condensation formed delicate patterns where her cold field met heated air. Ixxi surveyed the class, his head tilting in that particularly avian way that preceded shocking revelations. This magnificent example of cold weather evolution, a being whose cells produce natural antifreeze, whose metabolism can slow to near hibernation, whose body temperature hovers at what most consider lethal hypothermia. She would freeze to death in northern Greenland, in places where humans lived year-round and call home. Disbelief rippled through the classroom. Surely the professor was exaggerating. "Earth," Ixxi continued reverently, "is a world of impossible extremes. Our Ivari would perish outside human settlements. Even the desert dwellers of Ugar Prime, who breathe superheated methane and whose carapaces withstand radiation that would cook most of us, couldn't survive a single day in Earth's Sahara Desert." Ixxi spread his wings slightly and began walking toward the front of the classroom, his voice taking on the cadence of a well-rehearsed lecture. "Now, let us examine the specific case of northern Greenland. Average temperature of negative 40 degrees Celsius in winter, dropping to negative 60 during polar storms. No sunlight for 4 months. Winds that can reach 200 kilometers per hour, driving ice crystals that would flay the skin from most species. The only forms of life that persist there are microscopic extremophiles and the occasional Arctic fauna, all of which have evolved specifically for those conditions over millions of years." He paused for effect, letting the brutal statistics sink in. To survive there, one would need fusion-powered heating units, reinforced atmospheric shelters capable of withstanding crushing ice buildup, specialized recycling systems for water and air, and... A hand rose in the front row. "Excuse me, Professor, my family and we holiday there." Ixxi stopped so abruptly he nearly stumbled, tail feathers flaring for balance. His head snapped toward the speaker, pupils contracting to pinpoints. There in the front row, directly before where he'd been lecturing for 30 minutes, sat a student he hadn't noticed. The impossibility sent his feathers ruffling. He never missed students. Never. The being was remarkably unremarkable. Bipedal, juvenile, proximal height, no obvious natural weapons or armor, Simple fabric coverings, brown fur atop its head. Only subtle details gave it away. Forward-facing predator eyes, oddly efficient locomotion, exposed skin that seemed vulnerable yet remained intact. "I'm sorry?" Ixxi managed, voice pitched high with surprise. "I seem to have overlooked you. You are—" The being stood respectfully. "Thomas, Professor, exchange student from Earth, specifically from Nuuk, Greenland, though my family's originally from Singapore. I'm part of the new integration program." He smiled, baring teeth in a somehow friendly gesture. "I've been here since class started, but we humans can be easy to overlook. No bioluminescence, no impressive plumage, pretty average by galactic standards." "You're from Greenland," Ixxi repeated, composure shattered. "Born and raised. And with respect, Professor, you're slightly misinformed. Yes, it's cold, really cold, but not quite the death trap you're describing. Humans survived there thousands of years without high technology. Would you like me to explain?" Without waiting, a breach of protocol that seemed naturally confident from this human, Thomas launched into an explanation. The Inuit developed incredible techniques over millennia. Igloos that maintain temperatures 40 degrees warmer inside through body heat and clever engineering. Caribou skin clothing with fur facing inward, creating insulation rivaling modern synthetics. They read weather in cloud formations, identified safe ice passages, created tools from every part of hunted animals. He gestured animatedly, clearly passionate about the subject. The engineering was remarkable. They'd build entrance tunnels below the living space, creating a cold trap. Body heat would rise and stay in the dome while cold air sank and flowed out. His hands moved as he spoke, sketching shapes in the air. Diet was crucial. Fatty seal and whale meat providing calories for body temperature. Vitamin D from fish liver, vitamin C from raw meat. Cooking would destroy it. They developed specialized hunting techniques, waiting motionless at breathing holes for hours. Waterproof boats from animal skin stretched over driftwood or bone frames. Fire making in impossible conditions using bow drills and dried moss. Before Ixxi could regain control, Ivari swiveled toward Thomas, large eyes fixed with glacier intensity. "Wait, your species survived conditions that would kill me without environmental suits? What about fusion heaters without atmospheric processors?" Thomas turned to her, smiling. "Well, we had technology, just not high-tech. Bone needles for waterproof stitching, detachable harpoons for sea hunting. But basically, yes, us versus the environment, and we did okay." "But how?" A Regellian with tough scales leaned forward. "The temperature alone." "That's just the start," Thomas said, clearly enjoying the attention. "Storms could bury settlements. Ice could open crevasses without warning. The sun doesn't rise for months in winter, yet ancient humans lived there without modern amenities." Questions flew from multiple directions. How did you navigate without stars during the polar night? Did your ancestors really live in ice houses? Thomas fielded each enthusiastically, painting a picture of seemingly impossible human adaptability. He described navigating by wind patterns and the way snow formed around obstacles, getting vitamins from organ meats and fermented foods, maintaining culture through elaborate storytelling traditions that could last entire nights. The old could tell stories that went on for 8 hours, he added. They weren't just entertainment. They contained hunting wisdom, weather patterns, all encoded in adventures and myths. Kids would learn survival skills without realizing they were studying. Look, he said finally, if you ever travel to Earth, which I hope you do, ask a human who lives there. No offense, Professor Ixxi, but theoretical knowledge only goes so far. Every region's different. He glanced apologetically at Ixxi. Theoretical classes aren't useless. Understanding science is important, but they don't tell the whole picture. Humans adapt to stuff that shouldn't be survivable without technology. We've been doing that for millennia. The classroom erupted in discussion, students peppering questions while pulling up Earth data on holographic displays. Ixxi stood among the chaos, Feathers gradually settling, students turned to him, expecting him to reassert control, defend his position. Instead, Ixxi laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "Class," he said, voice cutting through the chatter, "we've received something more valuable than any lecture. What the humans said is correct. Theoretical knowledge cannot replace lived experience." He gestured toward Thomas. "I propose we set aside today's lesson plan. Would you give us a virtual tour of Earth's climates? We could learn more from your first-hand accounts than any textbook." Thomas grinned. "Happy to, Professor. I got pictures from home, plus I've traveled. Could show you the Sahara. Did a semester studying desert archaeology." "Excellent," Ixxi said, adjusting the holographic projectors. "Gather closer. Prepare questions. We have a unique opportunity to learn about surviving Earth's climates and the remarkable species calling those places home." As students rearranged themselves, chattering excitedly in a dozen languages, Ixxi caught Thomas's eye. "Had I known we had a human among us, I never would have structured this lecture so." "No worries, Professor," Thomas replied. "It was fun hearing an outside perspective. Makes me appreciate how weird we are." As lights dimmed and Thomas pulled up images, sun-drenched ice under impossibly blue sky, Ixxi settled back to watch. His lesson was thoroughly derailed, preparing examples scattered. Yet watching his students lean forward with genuine engagement, hearing excitement in their voices, seeing understanding draw across various eyes, he couldn't mind. The ambassadors in training were receiving proper training indeed, even if unplanned. Especially when Thomas casually mentioned his sister studying on Europa, living in underwater cities that humans had argued for decades whether it was colder there or Antarctica in winter. The gasps from the class were, Ixxi thought with satisfaction, exactly what education should sound like.